combatant Japan pulls out a cunning attack. The Awaji Onion Splash. He chops up Awajishima's famous onion into 1,000 pieces and assaults his opponent's vision. It's a slapdash counter at best. Sure. How the bloody hell is this series still alive? I'm From Japan is a series from Shonen Jump, created by Seiji Hayashi. It enjoyed a 35-chapter run in its English release in Manga Plus, from January 20th, 2019 till May 26, 2019. The run continued as it got moved to Saikyo Jump for its Japanese release, and is still ongoing to this day, surprisingly enough. This manga tells the story of Tokyo, a teenager from Yamagata, who has come to Tokyo as a transfer student. He has an inferiority complex regarding his hometown, and wants to beat up everyone who thinks he's a country hick. But he ends up finding Japan, a boy who practices Todofuken, a form of martial arts using various Japanese regional trivia. It's a pun. In case you haven't noticed, this is a gag manga. I would risk saying it's not a very funny one at that, but I feel like that would be outside my area of expertise. Not the comedy part, but the Japanese part, mind you. A lot of the jokes are so, local in nature that I don't get the references. But here's the thing, that's usually not a problem for me. When I first watched Monty Python as a kid, I didn't know and didn't care who Margaret Thatcher was, but I still laughed when the anatomy episodes, the brain was showed, followed by Margaret Thatcher's brain with the arrow pointing to the Prime Minister's ankle. In Allo, Allo, I didn't realise General de Gaulle had a big hoot until the running gag pointed that out, and I happily accepted that fact. In Pokemon Adventures, I love Diamond and Pearl's double act and all the wonky puns that probably work better in Japanese, and was always interested in the side note explanations provided. The fact is, I love learning new stuff through comedy, even if I don't get the reference, so I'm From Japan should be a perfect fit for me. So, why didn't it work? Does this particular sense of humor just not appeal to me anymore? Am I not the target audience? That's definitely possible. In the segment about the series The Manga Mavericks, mentioned that I'm From Japan appears to be aimed at younger kids, and yeah, I can see that with the focus on bomb jokes, and yeah, another explanation might be that I just don't care about learning new things anymore because I've become a jaded, tired, alienated millennial. Or maybe it's a premise. Part 1. The Declining Birth Rate. While reading through I'm From Japan, I've noticed it had a few ups and downs, but I think it's safe to say it's never felt very notable. The reviews I read were very scarce, while the articles mostly presented the publication info. It didn't seem to me like anyone was talking about I'm From Japan during its run or after. Still, they got 35 chapters in Jump, which is astounding when taking into account Neolation and Hellwarden Higuma both got 19, being series that, in just my opinion, definitely deserved more. There appeared to be this push for I'm From Japan, which even inexplicably got its spot on Manga Plus, perhaps in hope that international audiences, aka weebs, would be interested in learning about Japan through this manga and thus boost its rankings. Well, I'm sure this could all be just explained away by some editorial biases. I'm sure that this is nothing to be concerned about. After 35 chapters with lukewarm reception? No, actually, it would have to have been in development since before the manga was published to make it in time. This seems like a huge push. What is going on? But, as they say in the Lesser Poland Voivodeship, you've got to know your limitations. Actually, they don't say that, I just made it up because it fit the theme of the series. Regardless, there is only so much I know about manga as an industry, so I decided to turn to someone who does. They are called LumRanmaYasha of the Manga Mavericks podcast, my dear friend and rival. Lum, how would you explain what the deal is with the push behind I'm from Japan?
Hey Wensleydale, thanks for reaching out. We here at Manga Mavericks do indeed aim to discuss manga as a medium and as an industry. And while I'm not an expert on these types of behind-the-scenes dealings, I'll do my best to offer an educated hypothesis on this Japan jam. I admit, I'm not the biggest fan of I'm from Japan, but its sort of success is a strange snafu for sure. The I'm from Japan TV anime was announced on December 1st, 2018, just 3 months after its Shonen Jump debut in September. The series was only like 15 chapters long at this point. Most Shonen Jump series wait at least a year and a half to 2 years before greenlighting an anime to ensure there'll be enough content for an anime to adapt. The only exception I remember happening sooner in recent years was World Trigger's anime, but even that was announced at least 15 months into the manga serialization. So I'm from Japan's an odd outlier for sure, but anime aren't made for no reason. Sure, some projects may be started and made out of love, but for the most part, shows are a product of a production committee of producers, which in most Shonen Jump anime's cases would include Shueisha, the studios they're working with, the TV networks, the toy companies, and other investors, all of them pooling their resources together to make a product they can profit off of. We don't always know the reason why an anime is made when it is. For most series, we can assume an anime is put into production to promote the manga it's based on, and expanding it into a multimedia franchise just as it's starting to pick up popularity. But other times anime can get made for more cynical reasons. For example, Toei Animation and Bandai Namco's publicly released fiscal reports from 2009 through 2011 reveal that Dragon Ball Kai was essentially created as part of a multimedia marketing plan to rejuvenate the Dragon Ball franchise and attract new, younger fans both domestically and internationally by recutting the original series instead of making a new show to save costs and ensure a quick production and release schedule. You can read Kansenchu's full feature on the evolution of Dragon Ball Kai for more comprehensive info. But my point is this: making an anime is a business decision, and there's always a motive behind it. So, we have to ask ourselves, why would an I'm from Japan anime be made this soon? We may not have any fiscal reports or interviews with those involved with the production to inform us on the whole truth of the matter, but we can make some inferences based on the circumstances. When the anime was announced on the official Shonen Jump Twitter on December 21st, there was no additional information on the cast or studio or format other than it would be a TV anime that would debut in April. That leads me to believe that maybe those details hadn't been ironed out yet, so perhaps the show hadn't been in production since the manga began serialization, but only a few months into the manga's run. We wouldn't find out what studio would be making the show until February 17th, where we found out the anime would be made by Odd Job Studio, and this is a studio that's known for short-form animations. And the director of I'm from Japan, Isamu Ueno, had previously directed 2 shows for this studio: Precarious Woman, Executive Miss Black General, and the Enoshimens series. But all these series are short-form series that only run like 3 minutes in length at most. This would also be the date where we found out that the anime would be a short-form series and would air in Charasuda. And this is a relatively new segment inside TV Tokyo's Oha Suta program, which, as you might guess by its full title, Oha Suta, the Super Kids Station, is a variety/educational program geared towards kids that has been running Monday through Friday morning on TV Tokyo since 1997. So we got the confirmation about the airtime premiere date of the show about a month later on March 15th, when it was confirmed that the show would be broadcast on Mondays at 7:05 a.m. starting on April 8th. And while the series has not been simulcast in English language territories, the first episode was actually uploaded on ShowPro's YouTube channel on June 28th. And ShowPro, by the way, is a subsidiary of Shogakukan that manages the licensing and merchandising rights of Shogakukan, Shueisha, and Hakusensha intellectual property. So the fact that the first episode is appearing on their YouTube channel, which also hosts clips and short excerpts from the likes of Hantaro and other really commercial, kids-oriented programming, is quite telling. But the show itself, watching it, that's pretty revealing. Because if you actually watch that first episode, it's a 2-minute long short that has mostly undetailed, monochromatic backgrounds and is minimally animated. It mainly relies on motion tweens, character asset puppetry, and camera movements to facilitate motion. To put it simply, it looks like it was done on the cheap, relying on cost-saving techniques to make it as quickly as possible. However, that's Oddjob's MO. They specialize in making short-form animation on the cheap. The real Oddjobs of the TV animation world. So Shueisha must have partnered with them, knowing the style of their content. And it's clear the quality of the Japan anime, making it a lavish production along the likes of MHA, that wasn't a priority, wasn't a concern. Based on the timeline of information we received on the anime, I don't think the show was in production before the manga began publication. Rather, based on the show's time slot, the fact that it is a weekly short show within a segment of a children's morning show that airs daily, I'm only guess one of two things happened that explains why the I'm From Japan anime got made. One, either Shueisha shopped the series around after its first few chapters knowing that its potential educational value for teaching kids about the prefectures of Japan would attract sponsors, or two, TV Tokyo reached out for Shueisha for an IP they could use for a segment on Ohasuta, and they gave them Japan because it fit the educational nature of the program. Either way, it seems the show was mostly made to serve a functional purpose inside the Ohasutra program. It's time filler that's still technically edutainment, and not too costly to make. Which isn't to say there isn't some care involved in making the show appealing for kids. The cast is comprised of skilled and seasoned voice actors. Japan's actress is Minami Takayama, who plays the titular Detective Conan, which has been a staple of Japanese television for over 2 decades. Her performance as Japan is truly energizing and breathes so much life into the character in a way that makes up for the show's awkward, limited animation. Not only that, they got Akira Kushida, a veteran tokusatsu and anime song hitmaker, to make the show's theme song. So there's a lot of talent involved in the show, and it's interesting that the show's hoping to bank on strong performances and music to interest and entertain kids, probably knowing that younger audiences are especially more willing to forgive stilted animation in the show they're watching if it consistently keeps their interest. Regardless, it's safe to say that I'm From Japan getting an anime wasn't due to the popularity of the series itself. The very fact that it was removed from Jump after only 35 chapters kind of speaks to the fact it wasn't a hit with Jump's young adult audience. I suspect it being moved to Saikyo Jump, which is a promotional magazine that mostly runs franchise spin-offs like Koro Sensei Q and Super Dragon Ball Heroes and a bunch of other super deformed style gag manga, rather than being outright cancelled, is because Shueisha sees value in the IP as an edutainment style manga for younger readers, and the fact that it has an ongoing anime, regardless of its short form status, is justification enough to keep the manga going, to keep providing the show material to draw from. And considering the first episode of the anime is only 2 minutes long and only adapts 8 pages of the content from the first chapter, which is 55 pages long, I imagine that even with the manga's new monthly pace in Saikyo Jump, the show won't be in danger of catching up anytime soon. In a sense, the I'm From Japan manga now exists for the same reason most of the manga in Saikyo Jump do. It's promotional material that's intended to advertise another product and the franchises they represent more than itself, which in Japan's case would be its own anime. But as for why the manga is being simulpublished on Manga Plus, I actually don't think the reason is that inexplicable. I'm From Japan was, at the beginning of this year, being run in Weekly Shonen Jump. Practically every Weekly Shonen Jump title attracts interest from international manga fans just by virtue of running in the magazine. And there were definitely people at the time who wanted to read more I'm From Japan after Wiz's Jumpstart run. By publishing the likes of Hinamaru Subo, Teenage Renaissance David, and I'm From Japan on top of the existing Shonen Jump simulpubs being handled by Viz, Manga Plus was essentially providing the entire Shonen Jump lineup to its international readers, and I think that was their goal more than anything. Keep in mind, they probably didn't know that Sumo David and I'm From Japan would all end their runs in Jump just a few months afterward. But because they pick up and simulpublish every new series now from start to finish, the conclusions of those series now mean that both Viz and Manga Plus really do simulpublish every series currently running in Shonen Jump. With the sole exception of Yuna and the Haunted Hot Springs, of course, but that's because it's the only Jump series not licensed by Viz or being translated under the direct control of Shueisha. So I imagine if Shueisha were able to negotiate with 7 Seas to do simulpubs of Yuna for Manga Plus, it would be on there too. But hey, that's just my theory. A manga theory, you might say. So what do you think, Wensleydale?
Wow, an astoundingly detailed account, Slum. I'm always in awe of your investigative skills. Your theory that I'm From Japan's target audience explains its push definitely rings true, and I don't think I can add much more to the conversation. So instead, I'm going to steer it in a different direction. We already know that I'm From Japan's main purpose, apart from being profitable, is to educate, but what is it trying to teach Japanese kids and why? Now, the manga itself explicitly teaches the kids trivia about the country of Japan and all of its prefectures, but it would be wrong of me to say that it's all it's teaching: geography and history. Above all else, this manga wants to promote a certain attitude, which is meant to be the answer to a problem that some of the Japanese youth face. That problem being the exodus of the young generation to the big cities and Japan's declining birth rate. You might have heard about the latter from the Darling in the Franxx meme, or for some fucking articles if you decide to educate yourself, you clotted zucchini Darling in the Franxx was known to be very, pro-procreation theme-wise. And a meme emerged that Prime Minister Shinzo Abe, conservative nationalist who denies some war crimes, is using anime to promote procreative sex among Japan's celibate generation, and thus solve the declining birth rate. Now, keep in mind this is a joke, and I realize it's a joke. Nobody really thinks Shinzo Abe is personally secretly plotting to use anime to convince young people to make babies so that he has enough force to create an army. Oh, that's what Nippon Kaigi, the ultra-nationalist monarchist association that Abe is part of, want. To change the constitution so that Japan can have an army again. Furthermore, the aim is to promote patriotic education. What can I say but yikes? Let's just keep all of this in mind, along with the fact that even if works of fiction aren't specifically made to promote a certain value, they are still informed by social trends, and often will make a point about that value or trend. Even if the point is neutrality, that is in itself an ideological stance, conformity to the status quo. I'm From Japan is far from expression of neutrality though. So, with all that in mind, I'm From Japan presents a problem in Japanese society in the manga itself. Young people come to big cities for high school education from rural areas, and they are supposedly shamed by city kids from being from those rural areas, and they themselves feel the need to hide it. And yeah, good point, that is internalized classism, and that is indeed a problem. The manga offers a solution to that problem, building a sense of local and national identity directly opposed to the recurring antagonists of the series, Masurao, a classist cosmopolitan prick who rejects the regional pride of his fellow classmates and strives to become a true city man. The thing is, he is an antagonist not because of his classism, but because he looks down on local culture, and therefore looks down on the main characters. He embraces a global lifestyle and foreignness that is directly opposed to Japan, the characters', well, jingoism. Again, this is not anything overt. It is an underlying attitude, a mindset that is coincidentally or not beneficial to the ruling party. This quirky jingoism comes in subtle moments, like Japan saying, "If we live in Japan, do we really need English? Do we really need it? Come on. As Lum rightfully said, this is one of many possible interpretations that may in fact coincide with others. Even if I don't find I'm from Japan funny, or don't find the mentality that spawned it very useful, I still appreciate that it exists as an insight into what form edutainment in Japan can take. It led me to doing some reading on the state of Japanese politics and criticism of its education system. And I encourage you to do the same, since knowing is good, actually. So I'll be putting some links in the sources down below if you'd like to check them out. Overall, it's important to remember that entertainment is not isolated from the circumstances of its production or social trends surrounding it. If it were, we wouldn't have I'm from Japan. Part 2. The YouTube algorithm. It's a dark abyss of sorrows and woes from which videos like these never surface. If you'd like to help me navigate it, you can subscribe if you haven't already, like the video, or share it on social media. Now here I would usually advertise my Patreon, but I feel like in this episode I should give a bigger showcase to LumRanmaYasha, who did a fantastic piece of research, the likes of which you can also find in the reviews at allcomic.com, or in the podcast Manga Mavericks, which they do with Colton, who has been with us during the Hellwarden Higuma episode. You can find them on Twitter at LumRanmaYasha or at Manga_Mavericks. The podcasts are again at allcomic.com, on Spotify, Player FM, Apple Podcasts, Hipcast, Podbean, Stitcher, Podtail, Chartable, TuneIn.com, do you say like Feed? Listen Notes, Himalaya, iHeart, Podcast.app, Biffer, Bofer, and of course Bomber. If you'd like to help them keep the show going, consider supporting them on Patreon to help them reach their goals, like paying the monthly manga subscriptions. They're just $1 away from that, so yeah, take it as you will. They also have rewards to offer, such as early access to podcasts, shoutouts, bonus episodes, bloopers, and more. So go check them out. So what do you want me to talk about next? Your choices are... Wait, that's not right. Da 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 da.